Welcome everyone to another one of our guest speaker series. Today we're grateful to have a number of guests, three joining us from Hothead Games today. Hothead's been a long-time collaborator, supporter of the MDM program. A number of grads have been through the doors in the past, and Cathy has been a long-standing traditional guest speaker of the Center for Digital Media. She's been through our doors many times, and I'm super grateful for her and having her colleagues, Lauren and Jessica, joining us today. Before we kick things off, though, I do want to put out a land acknowledgement. Specifically, the CDM does like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples whose traditional territories we create, collaborate, and transform ourselves upon. Although we may not be in class in person, we'd still appreciate our location and our ongoing collaboration with our respected neighbors and collaborators. So with that, Cathy, do you want to maybe kick things off with your colleagues and state a little bit about yourselves and what we're going to be covering today? And hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A later on.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Cathy Lim. I'm currently the HR Director for Hothead Games. I've been there almost 3 years, but I've also been in high tech for a total of 20 in various HR and recruitment roles. I'm also passionate about teaching and educating students, new immigrants. So I do a lot of volunteering with multiple nonprofits in Vancouver and multiple universities as well to help share my knowledge and empower people and give people good reasons to look for their dream job. And that's sort of one of my big passions. I'm also the executive director for the Vancouver Asian Film Festival, which is a local nonprofit. And that's sort of a part-time volunteer position for me as well. So very excited to be here. We'll cover the basics of, how to look for your dream job. And at any time, if you have questions, please reach out and we can discuss. And I brought my little army of people with me to help as well. And they're a lot younger than me, so they might be more relevant. I'm turning into an old fogey. So.
Not so old, but you did bring up an interesting factoid that I like, that you actually hired Josh. Everyone loves Josh in our CDM MDM world, so appreciate. There you go. Josh has just joined in, gave us a thumbs up. That's awesome. So that was point of history I didn't know, but that's awesome.
Yeah. So maybe it was 10 years ago. I was teaching at CDM in person, and Josh is like, Cathy? I'm like, oh my God, I hired him. I think it was 2004. Or no, 2005 as an IT, he was a new grad. He was like an IT specialist or technician for Metasoft Systems, one of the companies I used to work for. So yeah.
Josh doesn't age. He's still a young guy. I see that.
I know. He looks the same.
Oh, I've got a really good filter on today. Get rid of all my gray hair.
Perfect. So I'll let my team do their quick intros as well. Lauren?
Yeah, hello everyone, nice to meet you all. As Cathy mentioned, my name is Lauren. I'm working as the HR Generalist at Hothead Games. I've been with the company just shy of a year. I think my year anniversary is next week. Prior to working at Hothead, I've worked in talent acquisition and sales, marketing. You can probably tell by the accent, I'm originally from Ireland and I moved to Vancouver just over 2 years ago now. So been loving it ever since. And this is actually my first experience working in tech for Hothead Games as well. So yeah, it's been a great experience so far, and hopefully I can share some knowledge and insight as well.
Thank you, Lauren.
Perfect. Jessica?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Jess. I've been working with Hothead Games as an HR coordinator for the past 2 months or so. Before Hothead Games, I was just an HR assistant with a recruitment firm as well. I'm very excited to join this workshop with Cathy. She has always been just a great experience learning from all her workshops and everything. So I'm really excited for this.
Great. So without further ado, I will share my screen and we'll get going on this deck. Could everyone see that?
Looking good.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Great. So the art of employment preparation, there are so many layers and steps you have to do to really prepare to show your best self. So I'll try to keep it simple. I'll try to keep it memorable, and I will try to make it funny, because you know what? That's how people remember me, because I can be a bit of a clown. HR clown. That should be my title at work, Chief Clown Officer.
No, that's totally that we get that. We have a few in-house clowns. Patrick Pennefather is actually a professional trained.
I love Patrick. I
Right.
was part of one of his TEDx speaks, which was pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Cool. So here's the agenda, a little bit about me. What are you here to learn? The art of networking, that's hugely important. The art of social media, also hugely important, especially in these days. Going through the basics of your resume, interview skills, how to follow up, and then we'll finish off with some Q&A. So me. Ooh, that's the first thing most people in BC say, because I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I was born and raised in Toronto. I moved here in 2002, worked in gaming, visual effects, software, wireless, any tech industry, I've been in it. And again, why am I here? I'm here to help teach, educate, empower, and hopefully make people smile. So what are you here to learn? Does anyone want to pipe up so I can take some notes and try to focus some of my, if I'm not going to cover it, maybe I can try and cover it off during my presentation. And if anyone wants to pipe up and tell me a quick thing of what you want to really get out of this.
MDM students that are on the call, feel free to jump in and or use the chat window if you're looking to add comments there as well. But yeah, this session's for you. So if you have any specific questions, feel free to jump in on Cathy's prompts. They're used to kind of saving the questions for later.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, we'll skip forward then. Most people say, help me find a job. And again, there are so many different layers and things to think about. Little things matter. And that's what I really want you guys to focus on. Being unforgettable matters. And that's also something I want everyone to remember. How do you be unforgettable? How do you make yourself stand out above the crowd? And not just any job. So my first point of advice I'd like to give all the students is actually make a dream list. Everything you want to do in terms of your job and the tasks, and everything you want in the company, i.e. culture, location, industry, whatever the case may be. So for example, if you want to be a game designer, then write down what you want to do. Do you want to focus on level design or technical design or UX design? And if you want to be in games, if you narrow it down to that, do you want to be in console, PC, mobile? Do you want a big studio? Do you want a little indie studio? So once you write those out, you will become a lot more focused and laser focused on what you want. Because I always say, if you build it, it will come. If you write it down, it will happen. So does that make sense, hopefully? Build your dream list, everything you want to do. So for example, myself, honest to God, if I worked at a bank or a law firm, I'd probably get fired really fast because I would refuse to dress up. I would probably never show up on time at 8 a.m. I would probably get fired for swearing. And games is very casual. I love that, right? I can wear Uggs to work. I can roll in at whenever time I want because it's all flex time. And I mean, I work really long hours, but it's all over the place. I don't want to be trapped into an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. kind of schedule. So those are the things I write down. I love my job in terms of HR, like helping people, coaching people, mediation. I love teaching workshops. I love recruitment. I love helping people build career plans. So if I get stuck in a job doing payroll and benefits, my soul would be dead. So know exactly what you want to do, have a good idea, and that's how you can narrow down your vision and your focus. In terms of company, like you have to actually separate it. This is two separate lists, what you want for the job and what you want for your company. So for me, the company I want to work for has to be high tech, has to be fun, has to be fast paced, not a lot of politics, not a lot of red tape. Hence, I would never function well in a bank environment or the government or in a union environment. So those are things I write down, right? I prefer an office to be dog friendly. I prefer small to medium. And the reason is I've worked for big companies, big tech companies with 5,000 employees, and being one of 75 HR people, I really didn't feel like I was making a difference. So since 2005, I've been working in small to mid-sized tech companies. Why? Because everything I do, every move I make has an impact, and I love that. So if you write these things down, it will come to fruition. Make sense, everyone? Good. So the art of networking is really important. Make contacts, increase your visibility, make a great first impression. This is not just in person, but even online. So for example, one of the things I always harp on people, if you're going to add someone on LinkedIn, don't just hit hit send with an invitation note. Hi, nice to meet you. So any one of you, and make sure you have my email address. Dennis can share it with you guys, but add me on LinkedIn. I don't want to see just so-and-so's inviting you. I want to see so-and-so's invited you, and here's their personal message. Hi, Cathy. Great to meet you today at the CDM workshop. Right? That personal touch goes like a huge mile. Expand your network. It's not just who you know, it's who you know, and who they know, So same thing with referrals. When I try to recruit, if I have a ton of positions to recruit for at Hothead, I always tell my staff, post it to your social networks. It's not about just who you know, it's who they know, and so on and so forth. Help others help you, right? If you come to any event or any workshop or any sort of event or activity where you're meeting new people, if you come forward with the idea of, hey, how can I help you? It will pay off. There will be karma, good karma coming your way. So it could be, hey, I know somebody that can help you find this, or I might be able to help you find this or that, or meet this other person. So helping others connect, it will always come back. Help build confidence. So one of the things with interviews and networking is if you're really shy, that's okay, but also try your best to shine the light on who you really are. Because if you're too quiet or grumpy or whatever the case you are naturally, then it's not going to, you're not putting your best foot forward in terms of the interview. So always try to sort of highlight yourself in the best way possible, if that makes sense. Again, leverage your network, and think long term. Like don't burn bridges. I mean, I've had so many candidates that like disappear on me, like they're ghosting me, and I'm like, wow, I put in their notes in our applicant tracking system, I got ghosted, do not ever talk to again. But guess what? Everyone's connected. Vancouver is a very small city. The gaming industry is a very small industry. So if you piss off one person, there's a good chance word might spread. So always be gracious, always be kind, even if you're not treated well. Like I'm very, very strict with my team. When we interview people, I never ever want anyone to be left hanging. Everyone, even if they're rejected, they will get an email or a phone call, right? To close that loop, give them that respect because they did spend time with us. So it's a mutual thing. I know it always doesn't happen. A lot of recruiters are not that nice, or they're busy, or it's not a priority, but it is for us. And that's one of the mantras at Hothead for HR, red carpet service. Whether you're a candidate or whether you are an employee, you will get red carpet service from HR.
I'm going to jump in to give you a breather there, but I'm also going to support that because Hothead is consistently recognized as one of the top employers, not only in Vancouver, but just in tech. And again, it's not lip service. It's like we've had grads going through there. It's, the culture is known, right? So and I did want to add in, like when you were talking about that, not being an asshole or a jerk of the long tail of this industry, it's so true because you're mentioning like Tim Benison, right? So he has moved from different studios. He did work with us. Dave had listed a personal connection. He'd worked with grads. So you were aware of it. So, I mean, the degrees of connection and awareness. So even if you just want to be a good person, you want to be a good team member, and, you're definitely nailing the right points, Cathy. I just wanted to give you that chance for a drink of water there too, but also not just have you make your sales pitch, but I'm endorsing it. I'm going, yes, this is true. Hothead is they're not hotheads, they're cool heads, but they're
Well, actually, I will be announcing it very soon, but we actually just made the list of the 50 best workplaces in Canada. That's across all industries and all provinces. It is a big kahuna. I mean, we've won in many different subcategories, best workplaces for inclusion, millennials, best in BC, best in technology in Canada, but this is the big kahuna, and I'm going to be announcing that in April. Officially, yes. Perfect. Any questions on the networking piece? I'll keep going on this topic, but okay, great. Never burn bridges. So get comfortable speaking in public. This is something I personally treasure. I used to be horrible at public speaking. I'm still not great, and I'm okay with that. I'm a novice, but I like to think the content of what I teach makes up for my lack of being a professional speaker, and that's okay. But literally, I have a speech impediment. I don't know if you can hear that, but I have a lisp. I've always had one, and I've tried speech therapy. It didn't work. So for most of my early on in my career, I was petrified of any kind of public speaking. But if I knew if I wanted to elevate my career, I would have to overcome that fear. So I joined Toastmasters for 2 years. So it was a huge life changer for me, game changer. It's super cheap. You can do it on like a month-to-month membership. It's all like peer driven. There's hundreds of clubs across Vancouver, and you can jump in and join one for one session just to see how it is and drop in, and then they can tell you if you can decide if you want to join them or not. So there's all these little clubs all around the province. It's actually an international association, but I highly recommend it if you're nervous about public speaking or you're not confident, because like I said, it changed my world. Making a great first impression, eye contact. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Dennis, but in person, I made people come up to me and shake my hand at CDM, and half of the handshakes were this limp thing where like it's just this weird claw, and that's not a great way to make a great first impression. Sorry?
Yes, no, that's true. I do appreciate that. Again, yeah, I was just saying the pre-COVID days when we could touch people's hands.
Yeah.
I kind of missed that. I'm reaching through my screen. Hard handshake. It's fun.
Yeah, like a firm handshake, eye contact. If you're not good at remembering names, say their name 3 times. Bob, so great to meet you, Bob. Have a great day, Bob. And then if you say it 3 times, you will tend to remember it better. If you're really bad at names, when you get business cards, and I'll bring this up later, make sure you write something about them on that card. Right? If you're at a networking event, you're at a GDC, you're at something, always get cards more than give cards, because if you get their card, you have control over you contacting them. You can follow up. You can add them on LinkedIn and ask for permission. Hey, can I add you on LinkedIn? But if you write a little factoid on the back of the card, then you will have a better chance of remembering who they are if you ever bump into them again. Case in point, I was running my own agency in 2006. My goal when I first started that agency was to meet 100 new people every week. So I was in different networking events 2 or 3 times a day, and I really did sort of burn out from that for a while. But I did meet this one gentleman who was a potential client, and I wrote on the card, tall, funky red tie, 4 daughters. I bumped into him again 6 months later. I didn't get his business in that moment, but I bumped into him again at a different business networking event. And I'm like, I didn't remember his name. And I said that. It's totally fine to say, hey, I totally forgot your name, but I think you worked here, or you live here, or you're this. If you can sort of have some sort of correlation topic to bring up, it will help. But literally, so I didn't remember his name, but I'm like, hey, I remember you, like, because I remember he was super tall. I'm like, were you the guy with the really funky red tie and you had like 4 daughters? And he was mind blown. He was like, oh my God, you remember me? Like, I made him feel so special in that moment. And guess what? He became my client. You like putty in my hands. It was great. So making people feel memorable, making people feel great, you will be unforgettable. And that goes for everybody. Like, I am so nice to my Safeway clerk, my Starbucks people. They all know me by name. I walk in there, I feel like a celebrity. Cathy's here, because I do all my mobile orders. Literally, they're all 3 or 4 baristas. They know me. I know all their names, because I always say hi and have a great day, and that's all I do. I don't tip them, but they remember me because I'm really loud and friendly. But yeah, I walk into Starbucks and it's like, Cathy's here, and they run and give you my London fog latte. It's great. My partner was with me one time and he was like, do you like tip them really well or something? And I'm like, no. He's like, wow, you're like, celebrity status at Starbucks. So yeah, try to remember the details. Every little detail counts. Even things about, even details on your resume, making sure you have a keen eye to catch mistakes. And that's why I always say, don't proofread everything by yourself. Get other people who are better writers than you to proofread and have them be honest and say, hey, this is wrong, that's wrong. Use Grammarly, whatever it needs to, because again, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your portfolio is showcasing you at a high level, at a glance. If you have all those great things, that is sort of the introduction to get you that date, right? I always make a joke that looking for a job is like looking for a boyfriend or girlfriend on online dating, right? You're going to have a really catchy online dating profile so that you can get that date. Same thing, have a really catchy, awesome resume and LinkedIn profile to get that interview. Make sense? Having fun so far? I hope. Social media. Yeah, so LinkedIn's huge. LinkedIn is literally your online version of your resume. It should mirror what your resume looks like, and it should have some personal notes or something fun about it to make it more memorable. So make sure it's up to date. Join groups, you know, write a blog or follow other blogs. Keep in touch with people. For me, a pet peeve is I've hired and worked with hundreds and hundreds of people in Vancouver, and nothing annoys me more than somebody that I haven't seen or talked to in 5 years, out of the blue, ping me on LinkedIn asking if I can be a reference. And I'll do it, but I'm still like, you know? So for me personally, anyone I know I might need to use as a reference, every Christmas, I always send a message on for Christmas saying, hey, wishing you and your family a wonderful Christmas. Hope you're doing well. And that way I'm keeping them warm. They know I'm just saying hi and it's genuine. And that way, if I ever do need a favor, hey, I need you to be a reference, they're not going to feel like they're being used in a sense, if that makes sense. And be careful with what you post. I have a bad habit on like global news on Facebook, you know, freaking out on people in my mind who are like anti-vaxxers or anti-Black Lives Matter movement. Like I'm just like, like I want to write so much stuff, but I mean, these people are trolls. I can't engage, and it's a public thing, right? Like, and people can take screenshots. So I'm not gonna, even though it's like I bite my fingernail so I don't type like, what are you thinking? You know what I mean? Like you can't engage, and anything negative, anything, I mean, you know, you guys are young, you guys know the cancel culture. You don't want to be canceled, right? I mean, and I've told my hotheads, you know, if I ever, you know, find out that you're posting like really horrible things, I will fire you. It's a fireable offense. And they're like, okay. So if you're a closet Nazi, make sure you stay that way, right? That kind of thing. Any questions on that? And I have I'm not that bad. I don't really like Google people if I'm interviewing them. I don't really look up their Facebook, but a lot of recruiters will. They will try to find dirt. And I don't agree with it, you know, but people will. So if you are posting half naked photos or you in a bikini, maybe keep that to friends only. Don't make it public. Any questions on this? And I'm actually going to, can anyone on this call, can you raise your hand if you do not have a personalized URL on LinkedIn? I can't see everyone, but is anyone raising their hand? Because I can actually show you how to do that. No one? No one raising their hand? Everyone has a personalized URL on LinkedIn? Okay, then I won't show you. Perfect. So the basics. So before you even start looking for a job, research, you know, research, I can't emphasize it enough. Again, hyper focus, laser focus. What do you want to do? Where do you want to do it? Focus on that first. Even if there's no job posted, if you want to work for EA, find a way to get in. Leverage your network. Be like, hey, can you get my resume in front of the manager? Blah, 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 right? That's the best way to get a job, especially in Vancouver. Again, small world, small city. It's not like we're in LA or New York where it's a lot more anonymous. Somebody will know somebody somewhere that you want to work. So leverage that, ask for help, and figure out, again, use your dream list and narrow down that search. Because if you mass apply to 50 jobs, me as a recruiter being, you know, having done recruitment for 20 plus years, I can smell that from a mile away. And to me, I'm not impressed. I want people who say to me, I'm only, you know, if I ask, are you interviewing anywhere else? Are you actively applying anywhere else? You know, during the interview, if they're like, yeah, you're like the 50th company I applied to, like that doesn't make me feel special. That doesn't make me think you're going to stay with Hothead for a very long time. Because I want people that want to work for Hothead. I want people to say, I've done an hour of homework. I've played all your games. I know your entire executive profile on your website. So nothing is worse than when I interview somebody and I ask, so what do you know about us? And they're like, I think you make mobile games. I'm like, interview's over. Because you know what? If they don't really want to work for me, they're not going to stick. To me, that means if somebody else 3 months later offers them 10K more, they're gone. Think about your elevator pitch. Why are you the best candidate? So write it out. I'm the best candidate for this job because of blank, blank, blank. And even if you're a new grad with not a lot of experience, leverage everything you've done in school. Leverage, and this is why I always emphasize to students, if you can, volunteer somewhere, right? Even if you're like the student body president or running some sort of charity or volunteering for a charity, because that's experience that is above and beyond your education, and that will add more value to you than a new grad that has none of that. Like if I'm hiring a brand new coder and one has done a ton of volunteering experience or extracurricular activities, I'd rather hire that person than the guy that has none of that. Make sense? Interview questions. There's tons. You guys are in the internet age. I mean, like there was no internet when I was looking for a job. That's how old I am. That was back in the day when we didn't have electricity, right? So there's so many resources. Like find questions that might be asked and prepare them. Write them down and be like, you know what? I could be asked these 5 questions or these 10 questions. Do your research. Glassdoor is great for that, right? Also be prepared with salary. Nothing annoys me more than when hey, what are your salary expectations? I don't know, pay me whatever. And I actually get upset with some people when they say pay me whatever, because that could also degrade your value. And this happens a lot with women, no offense. How many females do I have in this room? But what happens, again, I'm a huge advocate for, women in technology and equality and all that stuff. But what happens a lot is, let's say I'm hiring 2 brand new coders. The female coder says, oh, pay me whatever. So I'll be like, okay, I'll pay 50. And the guy coder, exact same education, exact same GPA, says he wants 60. So it's only a 10K spread at the start. But look what's going to happen with that spread over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That 10K is going to be compounded to 30K, 50K. So I always tell my female candidates, know your value. And I hate when people complain, oh, women are never paid enough. We have that glass ceiling. And I always bark back. We're also at fault because we don't ask. We don't demand. We don't know our worth. So do your homework. You can find salary information so easily online. Make sense? Awesome. How to prep for an in-person interview. Obviously, we're doing all remote interviews these days, but in general, it's the same rule. So, wear pants, because I think one of my candidates made a joke that he wasn't wearing pants. I was like, that's funny, but weird. Yeah, he was like, I'm dressed from the waist up. I'm like, I hope you're really joking. Yeah, be professional, be tidy, floss your teeth, brush your hair, be early, but not too early, because nothing kind of freaks out hiring managers more than knowing that someone's waiting outside for 45 minutes, even though we know and they know that it's not till 2, but they're out the front desk from 1:15. Inherently, we feel guilty. It's like, oh no, we know someone's waiting, and then that stresses us out, right? So I would say, if you don't know the area, show up super early, go for a coffee, wait in your car, and then 10 minutes max before the actual interview time, show up. Bring a list of questions. Even when I interview, I actually print off pages from the website so that they know, because when I open my little book, they know that I've done my homework. They're impressed right away because they see how prepared I am. I have a list of like 10 questions printed off that I want to ask, and I have a list of company executive bios or like press releases from the company. I'm prepared. It's like a sales presentation. You want to win. You want to earn this deal. You want to get this job. Right? So make that amazing impression. Again, firm handshakes, eye contact, smile. Most times, especially people who don't have a lot of experience being interviewed, they ramble, but we always try to keep in mind, if you are booked for a 30-minute phone interview with somebody, if you spend 8 minutes answering one question, they're probably not going to get to all those questions. And they're probably not going to extend the time because, no offense, most recruiters work back to back to back to back to back interviews. So I can only give 30 minutes max. So be cognizant. My advice is, if someone asks you a layered question, like give me an example of this, or some sort of behavioral question, answer it as briefly as you can, like in 1 or 2 sentences, pause, and then ask, would you like more detail? I guarantee you 95% of the time, they're going to say, no, that's good, instead of rattling on and on and on for 8 minutes. Always ask for their business card. Always ask for their email. Always ask if you can add them on LinkedIn. Because you know what? It's a small world. There are so many candidates that I didn't hire for this one position but they made such a good impression that when something else more appropriate for that person came up, I called them right away. I didn't even post a job. I'm like, hey, remember, you remember me? We talked 3 months ago. I let you down for this job, but this other job came up and I think you're perfect for it. And most of the time they're like, hell yeah. Like, thank you for remembering me, right? Thank you for giving me a good, recruitment experience. And guess what? You know how many candidates that I turned down actually send me referrals for other jobs? Because again, it's all about networking, right? And if anyone turns me down, if I make an offer and they turn me down, I guarantee, I ask for 3 names off the top. I'm like, right off the bat, send me 3 names of someone else who can do this job. And then they feel guilty because they turned me down. So they do. They send me 3 names. I always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. Any questions on this? Okay. So resumes, and I'm going to show you a few samples, and they're all real life examples. I've already gotten permission from 2 other people to showcase their resumes. One is actually a CDM alumni. So resumes, 2-page max. If you're a new grad with not a lot of experience, keep it to 1 page. Clean lines, really clean font. Be really use like bold and underlining sparingly because you don't want too much distraction and scatterbrain stuff. Again, spell check doesn't always work. I once got a resume with the word crotch on it. I don't know what they were trying to say. Maybe the word crutch, but spell check did not catch the word crotch. Yeah, so make sure you have 1 or 2 people review with a fine tooth comb. Use icons. I mean, anyone in a techie kind of role, yeah, put, PowerPoint icon or Unity icon or Unreal Engine icon, Photoshop, whatever it is. Use icons where it's appropriate, especially if you're in a design type of role. Anyone who's an artistic, creative kind of role, your resume has to look like mint. If anyone is in a marketing, communications, HR role, your resume cannot have any spelling errors at all. If you're a coder or an accountant, I don't really care, but it depends on the job. So if you want to be in marketing, your resume has to look great and have no errors because marketing people can't make errors on their banners that they print, right? Cover letters, customize or bust. Nowadays, most people don't even write cover letters, and the ones that I usually do see, they're very fill in the blank, boilerplate templates. If I would rather see a 1-paragraph why I apply to Hothead. I love your games. I really want to do this. I love your culture. I love that you're award-winning. If that's in a cover letter, boom, they already get a point. I'm probably going to call them. Even if they don't have the right experience, the fact that they went to that effort, I will probably call them. Sometimes I've called people, even if they don't have the experience whatsoever that matches, but I will call them to say, great resume, great cover letter. I'm sorry, this isn't the right job for you, but I'll keep you in mind if something else comes up. And they're happy to get that feedback. I've made a good impression on them, and hopefully one day I could bring them on. So what do recruiters look for? I mean, at Hothead, we definitely look for culture fit. There's a word out there called toxic assholes, genius assholes. We don't want that. We used to have that at Hothead. I got rid of most of them. It doesn't matter how amazingly smart you are. I mean, I've rejected candidates with like 2 PhDs for some of the engineering roles that I've been recruiting for because they were jerks. I don't want that. That's toxic. 1 drop of oil can taint a whole glass of water. So we have to be really careful. And that's why at Hothead, we have a pretty lengthy recruiting process. It's fast, but it's still thorough. We want to make sure we're hiring for fit and experience. I mean, right now we hired a live ops designer, a new grad from Vancouver Film School. He has no experience. He beat out a guy with really good experience just because his attitude seemed that much more like, bam, like for what we need. What I also look for is the ability to take feedback. Oftentimes, especially with junior level candidates, I will test them in my interview. I might say, hey, did you know that there's a typo on your resume? And if they're like, oh, that's nice, then I'm like, okay, I'm never hiring you. But if they're like, oh my God, thank you so much for catching that, I'm going to fix it right away. I know that they can take feedback because juniors need to learn. They don't know a lot, and they're going to need a lot of handholding and a lot of feedback. And if they're not open to feedback in an interview, they're not going to be open to feedback in the job. So I'll do little tests, micro tests here and there. Even with some of the senior guys, I'll be like, hey, did you know? One thing I do often is also like, hey, you haven't played any of our games yet? Like, why would you do that? Like, and they're like, oh, I haven't had time. I just had a baby. Okay, fine. I forgive you. If they're like, oh, well, I don't really play mobile games. I don't like mobile games. Then I'm like, why would I hire you then? So generally we hire for skills, aptitude, attitude, and we fire most people because of a poor fit, not because of lack of technical skills or experience. So be unforgettable. This is my mantra. Be unforgettable. Be unforgettable. I was actually teaching a few years ago. I do a lot of work with new immigrants, disadvantaged women. I've done a lot of pro bono workshops for the YWCA and Immigrant Services Society, and I was teaching this to the Immigrant Services Society, a bunch of newly landed immigrants or refugees that are highly skilled or educated, but I don't want them working at Subway. So I teach this workshop. I do like a 3-hour version of it. And literally at the end of this workshop, they're all standing up and cheering in all the different accents, be unforgettable, be unforgettable. And it was so fun. I felt like a preacher. I felt like, wow, this is like so cool. Yeah, that's all. So I'm going to go through some of the resumes. Any questions while we pull that up right now?
I am going to jump in while you're pulling things up, because actually we were talking earlier about the MDM grads that have been through your doors, and I believe you have one with you right now. So Tarek El-Aran, he's
oh yes, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's one of ours. He's actually from our first cohort, well, like way back when. And I know I ran into him at the airport when he was traveling, when he was working with one of the companies in the United Emirates there. But yeah, I didn't realize he joined you, so I just did a quick LinkedIn search, right? So, and again, and Tarek, who's got his name in his LinkedIn thing, he's right there. I'm like, so there you go. Our legacy continues. You do.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
Cool.
So, well, again, actually, I was going to add in that. So obviously he was hired on in July, at least looking at my LinkedIn history here. How has it been recruiting in the era of a global pandemic and onboarding new employees? And like, again, recruiting, I mean, a lot of your messaging is kind of universal here, but have things shifted? Or is it, how are you onboarding these new employees that join your studio and get them into the culture? Like,
well, I would say, how about I'll let maybe Lauren talk about the onboarding piece, because she was in the thick of it. She literally started 3 days before we went remote. And I honestly think we were one of the first game studios in North America to send people home. We sent people home the week of March 9th, even before COVID was declared a global pandemic. And why? Because we listened to our staff. I think it really proves to the world how much we care about our people. Because a lot of our people take the bus to work. A lot of our people have immunocompromised issues or have family members who are. And every day after March 1st, more and more employees were like, and we already had an emergency work from home plan in place that I built in January, just because, no offense, we didn't have one. And we live in Vancouver that could be hit by a tsunami or an earthquake any day. So we actually built an emergency work from home plan. We initiated it, executed it, and within 24 hours, everybody was home, set up, ready to go. Everyone who took the bus to work in both our Halifax and Vancouver offices, every person that took the bus to work that day, we put them in a cab home to make them feel safe. Like, we were that prepared. And again, I think that really does showcase to the world how much we care, because I had my friends, HR friends at Kabam and other game studios, they're emailing me in April asking what we're doing. And I'm like, we've been home for over a month. But anyways, the recruitment piece, so I'll let Lauren talk about that, but the recruitment piece, it's actually been more competitive because digital entertainment has boomed during COVID, because more people are home or bored, and so they're playing more games. It's actually more competitive. So before COVID, I would compete with maybe 2 or 3 studios locally for my one person. Now I'm competing with 10 because everyone's remote anyway. So whether or not you're in Calgary, Manitoba, Halifax, I mean, it's crazy. Like, one of my guys got stolen from a studio in England, and they're letting him work from home in Kamloops. So he's like, I want to change. I want to get out of mobile. And so he's working for a PC studio that's based in London, England. But again, and I keep telling my CEO when we keep losing people, like, or if we ever do have offers that are being turned down, I have to explain to my CEO over and over again, like, we are now competing with 10 studios for the same talent. It's completely opened up the pool.
Is that Ian Wilkinson still?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's a bit of history there too. That's cool. I think
Yeah.
Dave knows him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, no, it's, I mean, do you think that work from home shift, is there going to be some hybrid model in the future?
That is our plan for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll let Lauren talk about the onboarding piece, because we were in the thick of it last year. We hired 50 people last year. It was insane.
How did it go hiring 50 people when they're not coming to the office?
Looking back, it went really well. I think start by saying like no one and no company has been through obviously a global pandemic before, so we're not perfect, and it was very much a learning experience. But we just had to. We couldn't control the situation, so we just had to adapt quickly. For Hothead, as Cathy mentioned, we didn't stop hiring, so we continued that. And I probably say last year we were probably one of our busier years in terms of hiring as well. So yeah, so we obviously had to transition recruitment, onboarding all online to a virtual standpoint. So for us, culture is so important at Hothead. So not being actually able to bring employees into the office and to meet fellow co-workers or just to see the studio was meant that HR really had to sell the studio and the culture and the phone screen. So we did over communicate, and because of the competitiveness of the industry at the moment, like we were really selling ourselves rather than the candidates selling themselves too, just because we were starting to hire over Canada, and then companies over the world were hiring anywhere and everywhere. But yeah, so we continue to do our phone screens, and then after that, the hiring manager interviews, they were all virtual. So we organized those via video calls, and we still did like our references and any coding tests or any relevant testing that we needed as well. But I think our service didn't change. In fact, I actually think our service was probably better than it had been in the past. But yeah, it was our acceptance rate was like 97% or something like that. So it was very, very high as well. And obviously we have a great company behind us to help us in that point. But it was the same process. We narrowed down candidates the exact same way. And yeah, it's just, I'm kind of used to that now. This is complete, yeah, this is just normal to me now, hiring this way. But yeah, we had a lot of success, and we had to put our head together as well as a HR department to continue it as well.
Yeah, and did you want to talk more about the onboarding as well?
Oh yeah, of course. So onboarding as well, all virtual. So in terms of, as soon as the candidates accepted our offer, we would then quickly introduce them to our IT team, and we would provide the home address of that candidate. The IT team would then reach out to arrange we'd either personally deliver it depending on where they're located, or we'd arrange a courier to deliver the equipment right to their front door. Cathy was a personal taxi woman last year. She actually delivered most of the equipment herself, and she cleaned the equipment before she handed it to them as well, just the whole COVID situation. And then whenever they got the equipment, we then organised their IT orientation to be via video call, and then we did our HR orientation as well via video call, where we showed them our orientation deck. And yeah, training, everything like that was all virtual. A lot of our new hires haven't yet met any of their co-workers, which is just crazy as well. But yeah, training and everything like that was virtual as well. Is there anything else, Cathy, to touch on?
I think one thing that we've always done it even before COVID, but I think it really did help with the virtual onboarding. Since I've been doing it for 15 plus years, day one agendas, nobody does it. And we usually send it the week before they start. So here's what your whole day looks like, hour by hour, with whom. Pre-COVID, it would include lunch with your boss and a team member, or your whole team, depending how big the team is. So that hour by hour, you know what you're doing, and you know what to expect for your whole day one, because that really does alleviate a lot of the anxiety that new hires have. First days are always nerve-wracking. So giving them a detailed schedule, what they're doing, who they're doing it with, what material they're going to cover. Here is some pre-reading in advance if you have time, blah, 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 etc. All that anxiety goes out the window. So they know what to expect. They don't worry, do I need to bring lunch, or what time do I start? Like, I didn't know, no offense, like when I was onboarded at Hothead, I didn't know what time I was supposed to start. I had to ask one of the other HR people, be like, what time should I be showing up? Like tomorrow. Like, that was not cool. Like, you never want any new hires or candidates asking, having those questions. It's unnecessary. And it causes unnecessary stress. So the more stress-free we can make candidate experience, new hire experience, the better off we all are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on top of that, we also send out like a welcome email on their first day to all staff, just to introduce the employee to everyone. And then our lunch and learns are now online as well every Thursday. So at the first lunch and learn of the first week, the new hire, we would then again introduce them to the company so they can come on camera, introduce themselves, and then we do like 2 truths and a lie. So all employees have to guess which we think the lie is as well. So just a kind of fun introduction as well to introduce them to everyone outside of their team. Yeah.
Great. Anything else, Dennis?
No, I was going to let you get back to your resume examples because you had me intrigued. I sidebarred you with my Tarek
sorry.
information, but I know that there's probably some keeners on the call who would like to see those examples.
C1, wow. Okay, I will reshare my screen again.
And his brother, I mean, he loved the program so much he sent his brother through it too. So, yeah.
Okay, good. You guys can see this. So this is my personal resume. I've as you can see, if you think about it, most people, human nature, they read right to left, top to bottom. So if I have a responsibility or a task of like data entry, that would never be the top bullet point. So always order your bullet points in the order of importance. And you can have multiple versions of a resume. So for example, if I'm going to go for a director of recruitment, my first bullet point is how many people I've hired or how many recruitment teams I've hired. But for an HR, this is more of an HR focused resume. My first bullet point is building the entire HR infrastructure from scratch kind of thing. So make sure you can have 2 or 3 versions of a resume. If you want to be a product manager or you want to be a producer, or there's many different paths you can take, and you should have one resume for each of those paths. Very clean. Make sure your portfolio link is on there. Contact information, your LinkedIn URL should be there. A quick one-liner, like who am I? I think most of you will agree by now that I am a high energy, hands-on HR evangelist seeking a new opportunity with a progressive, growth-oriented organization. Right?
You're also
Core strengths.
That counts against you though. You have the Leafs fan, so Cathy. Yeah,
no, I should make that the background.
Oh.
So yeah, so I didn't
I'm
really.
I'm also a Leafs fan. I'm actually in some places it'll carry favor, so it's like it's okay.
So I didn't put a lot of details. I'm obviously not looking for a job, but I just threw my Hothead on there. But if you want to focus on my last experience at my company before Hothead, I have a little introductory blurb, and then my bullet points, and again, order of importance. Really only expect people to read the first 3 bullet points. So for example, at LMI, I did all the event planning, but I didn't even put that on the resume because that's not important. It's not what I want to do really, like as my job. I did put notable accomplishments, like things that are facts that no one can dispute. I got them on the news. We won all these awards. I lowered turnover to under 1% in R&D. That's pretty cool. So that's my resume. And then as you can see, the more you go further back in your experience, the smaller and smaller and smaller it should get. If you have a resume where your job from 10 years ago has 10 bullet points, but your job right now only has 3 bullet points, that's really unbalanced. You want to show growth. You want people to visualize, even without reading any of the content, you want them to visualize, wow, this person has increased responsibility with every single job. And I always put activities and interests. Why? Because it could be something that, if the person I'm interviewing likes golf, that could be something we talk about and we connect on. And again, you build those personal connections, you will become more unforgettable. I went above and beyond and I added a 3rd page on my resume. It's just a snippet of what people say about me on LinkedIn, the different recommendations I've got. So I won't really show that. So here is a resume for a game designer. Oops, I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. So I wouldn't put a photo, but everything else looks pretty good. So he squished all of his resume onto 1 page, but it still worked. Again, your resume is a snapshot of who you are. It's going to lure you in. If you're going to write an online dating profile, it's not going to be 6 pages, right? What's going to make that person go yes, or swipe to the right, or swipe to the left? Swipe, swipe, swipe. For me, it's delete, delete, delete. I'm kidding. So that's Elijah's. Yeah, things I like. Cynthia stuff. I love this. Getting hired. Like, that's pretty fun, right? You want to always want to infuse a little bit of fun, especially if you're going to be in a creative, fun kind of role. Unfortunately, HR is not that fun. That's why my resume is a bit boring, right? It's very matter of fact, because HR is usually a boring job. I make it not boring, and I'm not a boring person, but typically, like, same thing. If you're an accountant, your resume is going to be boring because they want boring. One thing on this resume I don't like as well is references. Don't ever put references on the resume. You are inviting people to contact, be like, spammed. You don't want to put phone numbers or emails of people unless you are asking for explicit permission. Only give references when you're at the stage with the company that they ask for it. A, it's a waste of space. B, it's kind of uncool to like broadcast people's like phone numbers and names and job titles out there. And any questions on this particular resume? Okay. And here's Krisha. Krisha is a CDM alumni. Very clean. Again, especially if you're a UX designer, it's got to look really clean. 1 or 2 liner profile, work experience, good color, contacts, portfolio. Look at that, CDM.
Mm-hmm.
So some people might put the little buttons, like the skills. Some people might use actual icons. So Photoshop, ZBrush, Unity. You can put little icons because anyone who's going to be recruiting for those jobs should know what those mean, right? Okay, great. So that's all I want to show you guys. Any questions? I hope you guys have questions.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Krisha is great. I mean, I think she's now working with Realtor.com, where we actually have another one of our alumni from C1, Andrew von Rosenbach, is working there too. It's like
cool.
They're all in very senior roles now too. But again, it's to say that people do move around in industry and sometimes return too, or it's. I think that goes back to your earlier point about being the right kind of person and not being an asshole. So it's very, very important to take to heart. But how do you list? So actually, I'm thinking of your game designer. I remember he was located on campus because we had Namco Bandai as a tenant on the Great Northern Way campus. How do you list leaving a role in a way that appeals to an HR or recruiter person, like studio closure, or is it?
No, I wouldn't put any of that on the resume itself.
No, just for the conversation.
Yep. The only time I would is if it's a really short stint. So yeah, for example, I worked in visual effects before I got into games. This is my second time in games. So before I worked in games, I worked at a visual effects studio. I did a great job. I made amazing friends. I have a ton of recommendations on LinkedIn from the people I worked with. Unfortunately, they shut down after 6 months. So that I have to put studio shut down.
Yeah. I was wondering because again, with some people that have a lot of short stints, like does that?
Yeah, put contract. If it was a co-op, an internship, you have to put that on there. Don't expect us to assume anything. So if you have 6 jobs that are all 3 months and you don't specify contract, internship, co-op, I'm going to assume you're like either like a really crazy freelancer or you've been fired 6 times.
Thanks. Yeah, and Dave is apologizing. He has to leave for.
Okay. Bye, Dave.
At the 1 o'clock hour.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Cathy, Laura, Jessica. Thank you, Cathy. We'll reconnect for internships. So
of course.
I'll be in touch. Okay. Thanks again. Bye.
Anyone else have a question on the call? Again, it's I've monopolized time. I apologize. I'm a talker with my guests, and I'm hoping if you have time if there's 1 or 2. Looks like Joyce just came on camera. Joyce, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm just thinking like, how should I pitch that? So I'm a UX designer, and prior to becoming a UX designer, I was in science and then in business. So I'm wondering how should I showcase these transferable skills on the resume that is not directly related to UX, but it could help with being a better UX designer that way.
Of course. So I would have your job experiences listed, but like maybe not like 10 bullets, but maybe have 3 or 4. So like team management or project management, blah, like you can put bullet points that are relevant, right? And I would leave it at that. But don't remove the experience. I always have people ask me like, well, I made a total switch. Should I just delete all my old information? I said no, because then we're gonna think you're some like 19-year-old new grad punk. Like no, right? There is a good thing about having other experiences in different industries.
Thank you so much. That helps.
Anyone else?
Hey Cathy, can I ask one quick question?
Of course. Can I interrupt you just for a moment?
Yep.
If you're ever in a workshop, if you're ever in any kind of event where you want to ask a question in front of people, always say your name right away. Hi, I'm Lan from CDN. Hi, I'm Cathy from Hothead. That way, imagine if you're at you're attending a workshop with like 100 people. You say your name, everyone, you have 100 people now who know who you are. That is how that helps you become unforgettable.
Good tip.
Yeah,
So try again.
I think the point is this, yes. Hey, I'm Lan. Hi, Cathy. I'm Lan. So I would like to ask you one quick question, and thank you so much for giving us this amazing workshop for finding jobs in game industry. That's really helpful. So I have one. I'm not sure if this question is very common, but it's because I used to search a lot for jobs in game industry because that's my dream industry I would like to step into. But for most of the job description I've reviewed on the internet, it's even for junior position, most of them requires 1 to 3 years work experience in this industry, which makes me feel a little bit nervous because it makes me feel I may not be able to fit this position because I've never had a chance to spend that much time in this industry. So do you think it would be a very hard requirement for jobs kind of like this?
Nope. Okay,
where
so
we can just apply?
here's a trick. Here's a tip. A job description is like you writing down what you want in your dream partner, dream husband, dream wife, whatever. A job description is everything we want in a candidate. If you match 60%, apply. If you have a great cover letter and a great resume and you seem to have good energy off your resume, why wouldn't you just try? There's lots of people that apply to me that aren't the right exact fit, but that's okay. We don't expect everyone to tick all those boxes. Every job posting is literally everything the hiring manager wants. So know that.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, I have people that apply for senior programmer jobs and they're not quite senior, but that's okay. I made an offer to one today, right guys? He's not senior. We're not giving him a senior title, but he applied and he was great. We're hiring him.
That gives me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
that's
Lan.
really helpful.
It is.
Perfect.
I'm glad you asked the question too, because again, I've been at the MDM program since its inception, and every year I get approached by a student that goes, "Oh, they want 3 years experience. I only have 2," and they need everything else, and they have amazing strengths, skill sets, a portfolio that backs it up, and I'm like, Cathy, thanks for reinforcing that. It's true. It's a wish list. Employers list the sun and the moon and the stars of what they're looking for. It's often, you may meet most of those qualifications and maybe bring something else that, isn't listed. So yeah, having the confidence to apply when you think you're a fit, that's it's needed. So, and I'm glad you support that, Cathy. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
Any last question? I know we're going just a little past sort of my promised end time of 1 o'clock, but if anyone has one last question, we can take that. But if not, this will not be the end of our connection. So going once, going twice.
Paris too.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hi. Just wanted to say thank you.
Sorry, what was your name?
I'm Paris too.
Yeah, remember, always put your hand up, always say your name. Hi, I am so-and-so.
Yeah, I'm Paris from C14, and actually we connected in LinkedIn before. So I just wanted to say thank you because on Instagram, so many people ask me how they can apply to CDM. So we have a portfolio review session this week so that I can help them to manage their portfolio and put everything in a very good arrange for their CV or resume or portfolio. So I took lots of notes today, and I will say all of these to them for people from Iran.
I'm also going to sell Paris 2 here too. So Paris 2, she Truly Social Games scooped her up. She actually works in our neighborhood next door as an amazing UI designer there. So
and concept artist. Yeah.
Concept artist. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's right. Yes. And I saw the acknowledgement. Yeah. And Joe, friend of mine. Anyway, could be a future hotheader too. Again, people move around. I'm not. I don't police these things, but thank you, Paris, too, for joining us as well.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Cathy and team. We'll make sure you get an invite to our summer showcase, which will be our portfolio show. So you'll get a chance to see the entire graduating class, so our C15s. But again, your tips today will help influence some of the future candidates you'll see. So again, super appreciated. We will stay in touch, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And Dennis did put my email address on here, so take note of it. So if you want to add me on LinkedIn, I'll type it again.
I did.
But yeah. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
They will.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your afternoon, everyone.